Well, George, it's great to meet you. It's great to have you here. I'm excited and looking forward to, our time together. I love what you're doing. You're an inspiration to so many, and it really is an honor to have you here.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, man. It's a real honor to be here. Really glad that we're connecting, and hopefully I can pay forward that inspiration a little bit more here on this episode. But just in short, my name is George Hayworth. First and foremost, I'm a husband and father, combat veteran, served some time on active duty, deployed to Afghanistan, got out. Now I serve in the National Guard. So still kind of playing Army a little bit today. But then my business that I founded is Elite Sentinel Coaching, where you alluded to. We train and mentor men. The slogan there is forging leaders so they can build their legacies. And really what I've found just in my own walk in life, as well as with all the men that I've helped, is when you hone in on the man himself, whether he's a husband or father or just working on himself for the time being before he gets married, that's the highest return on investment, right? When you train a man how to live to a higher code and really do it for himself, not for some external, pursuit of excellence or something, the impacts that he will make in everybody's life around him just ripples on and outward. And so, I think we got away from that in our society of focusing on men first and kind of treating them as second-class citizens. And so it's not at the expense of women. We can train men and build men up and not have to take away from women. And I think that that's where our culture's gotten into, is this huge power struggle between the genders. And it's kind of a loser's game, right? It's a race to the bottom. So that's a little bit about me. That's the realm I play in and what I do. And I'm involved in a lot of other things. I host the Present Fathers podcast. I get to work with Nick Lavery as part of Precision Components and pay forward some of the inspiration and motivation there a little bit through a different organization as well. So at a high level, that's George Hayworth. And let's dive into this episode today, man. Thanks for having me on.
Sounds great. And you are the epitome of what I deem the asset mindset philosophy. You're living it. You are helping people take ownership. It sounds like you've taken ownership of your life. But I want to dive into something right off the bat. What was the single hardest moment in your life where you realized you either needed to step up and do it and take ownership and actually have that mental shift where I'm in control? Where was that moment in your life, or moments? You can say more than one if there's a couple that were impactful. But I noticed pretty much everybody that has this strong mindset, there was that defining moment or the pinnacle moment where they were like, I gotta do this and I need to take control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for me, that's a pretty easy answer. Basically, my rock bottom, I had been committing adultery. So I had betrayed my wife in the worst way possible and just found myself hating myself and even questioning who the heck I am, because I didn't agree with what I was doing. I was raised better. I knew it was wrong, and yet here I am doing that. So that really for me was basically there's no way to go but up from there. And that obviously was a long journey and a long process. But for me, that would be that singular moment where it was like, dude, you have been doing all the wrong things and you've been trying to fool the world that you're this great guy, and obviously you're not. So it was time to stop the act. And then through that, what I've learned actually is I don't have control. And that was my problem, is I was trying to control everything. And you can't willpower yourself through your problems, right? You can't just bear down and grit harder and solve your your flaws. That's what I was doing, right? And I think a lot of men find themselves in that position. And so for me, my faith is extremely important in that journey as well. And I know that's not for everyone. I'm not here to preach at anyone, but for me, it was that moment after that, starting to get help, starting to humble myself before other men that, were living in a way that I wanted to follow. That again, it was kind of just obvious to me and hit me in the face that, well, all this time I've been professing to believe in God, but George is trying to maintain control of everything, and it's impossible. And so the irony here is that the more that I actually surrendered to God and just gave it over to him, it still requires work. It's not like he just magically solved everything for me, but stopping to try to control everything and actually just trusting him and following his guidance was actually how I got out of that situation. So I hope that answered the question well, but I think we all have something in our lives that is probably that pivotal moment where you've maybe made a huge mistake or something really bad happened to you, and maybe it's unfair, but we all have that option. We can either let it destroy us, or we can choose to actually get help for it. And if you're anything like me, where you had outward success, but internally you're just being chewed up inside and can't handle it anymore, I assure you that when you finally reach out to some people to get real help, that weight is going to get a lot lighter very quickly, and you'll start to gain clarity through the chaos.
Absolutely. I love that. And I love that you brought up faith, because I hear that a lot, because I say the asset mindset, you are your greatest asset. And people are like, well, the people of faith are like, well, God, and absolutely, I'm a man of faith as well. But you even said it, I chose to go back. So you still have to take some ownership. You're giving up control, but to give up control, that's a decision. So you still, like, the Lord's there, and we're not trying to get too preachy here in the asset mindset today,
Yeah,
but he's there with open arms. You need to choose to walk towards him. So you
right.
still have that power, because we have free will. So it's not that God's out of the picture when you have the asset mindset. He's there. He's always there, in my opinion, in my faith. But you still have to choose to move towards him, because,
Completely.
that's
I
that's
agree that
powerful.
your mind is your greatest asset too, right? And that's whether you believe in God or not. We have unique minds as human beings, right? I believe we were created that way. It's not an accident. But whatever you believe, let's just call spades spades. We think differently than every other creature on this planet, right? We have hopes and dreams and visions of the future. I don't really think animals do that, right? They kind of just live day to day. So we as humans are uniquely different on this planet. So with that, there is this desire to kind of conquer ground and move forward and be more than we are today. And if you don't hone your mind, it will either be so if you hone it, it's your greatest weapon. If you don't, it can be your greatest hindrance. And this is where I find a lot of men too, is they just have these self-destructive loops playing in their head on repeat. And the way that they talk to themselves is just breaking them down before they even start the day. And so, of course, you're feeling stressed and anxious and lonely and tired and yearning for more. I say that's salty. Most men are salty today because they don't hone their mind. They aren't using their mind as their greatest weapon. And so, the other thing too that you were kind of alluding to here is the concept of submission. Right? And that's a dirty word today, especially in the context of marriage. But to submit is actually a choice, right? And we accept this pretty much everywhere. Like most people have a boss, right? You go to work and you have a boss, you submit to that authority. So why is it any problem then that you submit to something else that's actually going to help you? And so maybe you're a combat veteran, maybe you've got PTSD, maybe you saw some things that you're really questioning, how could a loving God let that happen? Or why did that happen to me? Or maybe you're having survivor's guilt or something like that, right? Some of these ugly things we don't want to talk about. You have to submit that to someone else who actually knows how to help you. And that's a little bit humbling. It's a little bit scary. But I assure you that when you do that, you'll actually feel more control over your life, even though you're letting it go, right? It's this weird paradox of being human where we try to control everything, but when we're trying to control everything, what we really mean is I'm trying to architect a situation where I have peace. Really, that's really what it is. We're trying to force peace. But what I found is that the only way to actually have peace in your life, regardless of how chaotic things may be, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a dad, I'm super busy, my schedule's nuts, but I have more peace today than I've ever had in my life, despite all the things I have going on, because I finally learned that I do have to submit things, right? Whether it's advice for my business or advice for my marriage or whatever the topic is, I have to submit to someone else who knows more than me, actually has the experience to help me, whether it's little or big. We all have to choose that for us. So I think that's part of honing your mind, is understanding where your strengths naturally lie, leaning into those things, and the things that are your weaknesses. Hey, brother, you got to get help. This whole lone wolf, Sigma male type of thing is just a fool's errand, quite frankly. And that was me. I tried to do it all on my own, and I almost destroyed my entire life. So let that be a warning to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the concepts I talk about in my book, is you need to surround yourself with good people and be in good environments. So you can't be alone. And everybody knows that, if you take one stick, you break it, you put two together, it's a little stronger. But if you get a bundle, that's strength and it won't break. So by putting yourself in these environments, so say you have someone that's coming in that's struggling, like you said, in like a loop of victimization, or I can't deal with this or whatnot. When you're coaching, how do you help them break that victim mentality, or, what techniques do you share to help someone get their mind right?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to steal from a mentor of mine named David Waldy here. He's got a framework that really highlights this exact question very well on how we change that, right? So the way we do it in our program obviously is a little bit more in depth than this quick explanation I'm going to give you. But this is kind of the core principle for how any man can start to change his thoughts, change his subconscious. And so first it starts with your beliefs, which then influence your thoughts, which influence your feelings, and then influences your action, right? Maybe I flipped feelings and thoughts, I forget. But what you believe about yourself, it starts with you. No one can do that for you. I can't come into your head and change the way that you believe about you. You have to do that for yourself. But whatever you're believing, positive or negative, that then influences how you feel, and your thoughts are a result of those. So those may be lying to you, right? You may have all these thoughts and feelings that are saying you're a loser or this or that or whatever, but it's all fabricated based off of you honing in on just the negatives, where there may actually still be plenty of positives in your lives or things that you could be pursuing, but because you chose to believe the negative, now everything is just in this feedback loop, right? Then your action, of course, follows everything internally. So when you start to understand that breakdown there, that 4-step process, when you change your core beliefs about yourself and start to use intentional language with yourself in line with those beliefs, then your thoughts and feelings start to flow more in accordance with positive emotions, positive thoughts that build you up and help you move forward to conquer whatever your challenge may be, and your action will follow suit. But again, you can't just willpower your way, right? You can't just start, well, I'm going to do all the right things and then I'll feel better. It doesn't work that way. It has to come from within first. And this is why you see a lot of men, they'll do 75 hard or something and they'll lose like 20 pounds. And then as soon as it's over, they put it right back on. Or, they'll read some self-help book and for like 3 months, they're like totally on fire and then they just totally regress afterwards. And that's because you never changed your core beliefs about yourself. And so that's what we really drive into heavily. We spend an entire week on just the way that men talk to themselves and think about themselves in our program, because it's that important. And we do that very early on in the process, because again, I can teach you all the tactics and all the wisdom and all the knowledge, but if you still deep down think that you're not worthy of more, or that you're selfish, or that you're a failure, or whatever these thought processes may be, I can't help you. It's just never going to be enough. So that is a responsibility that every man has. And it may not be fair either, right? I think this is another trap we fall into. Like, well, that's not fair. Man, I know some people who have been through the most insane lives that is beyond unfair. And they still will say the same thing that I'm about to say. Tough shit. It's your choice. You have to choose. Are you going to be the one to change the story, or are you going to just stay a victim to it? And no one can do that for you. So that may sting a little, but the sooner that you embrace that, I assure you, the faster you're going to start healing and the better you're going to feel very quickly.
Absolutely. I love it. George, man, you got it. You got the asset mindset. And that's why I'm so glad and honored to have you on here, because you're spitting the truth. And it doesn't matter exactly, what you call it or what you define it as, but the truth is the truth, and the truth will set you free. It really will. And it is true. It starts in the mind. That's why I got the asset mindset. Like, your mind, you have to have the thoughts before anything else can start to happen, before you can unleash your power of being a creator. So let's get into now, we've shifted someone's thoughts. They're now starting to surround themselves in better and more positive places. What do they do next?
Yeah, so I think for men, one of the easiest ways to start reinforcing the new belief about yourself is physical fitness. Now, it's not trying to become Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's not what I'm talking about. But like if you're a few pounds overweight, or maybe you're not overweight, but you just like haven't really been exercising very much or whatever. Men are naturally very physical creatures, right? We're formed from the mud, right? When God made Adam, he made him from the dirt. That says a lot about the masculine nature, right? We're kind of knuckle draggers at heart, right? Whether you're, you may be listening to this and you're 500 IQ, way smarter than me. But at the end of the day, we still are very responsive to physical activity in some way. So for me, that's like the easiest starting point for most guys. If you're kind of like, well, I don't know if I'm really that, whatever, you're trying to change your beliefs, just go start exercising on a basic, consistent routine that immediately starts to give you that feedback that we talked about, that starts to change that narrative for you that, hey, you know what? I can keep a promise to myself. I set a goal. I'm going to stick with it. Make it realistic, right? If you're completely out of shape, you're not going to be winning a bodybuilding competition in 6 months. So just start with some real goals there. But the point isn't to be the world's fittest man. It's just to start proving to yourself that you can be a man of your word. And then that influences more, from a scientific point of view, that your biology, your endorphins release, there's all these positive benefits from exercise. But for men, that's like step number one. The best next thing is you have to have a real brotherhood around you. This is ironically one of the hardest things for men who come through our program. Isn't necessarily defeating a challenge they have or a character flaw or something. It's teaching them how to give themselves a pat on the back when they do something right. Guys are so conditioned today to only focus on the negatives, or your worth is totally derived from how much you can output or provide or whatever. And you'll see it that they have a hard time even sharing a win or even like acknowledging credit for when they did something right. So a lot of the times our coaching isn't necessarily correcting a wrong. It's like, no, man, you're doing the right thing. Continue to do that. And they're like, oh, really? And I'm like, yeah, bro, keep doing that. That's great. Continue to do that and watch. The results will follow. And that only comes from having real men around you as a man who respect you, care about you. Sometimes will give you the push you need, but other times kind of give you that reinforcement of like, no, bro, that's the right answer. Continue mission. When we are isolated, we start to lie to ourselves. Our fears take over. Our anxiety takes over, right? Like, I'm a pretty capable guy. Yeah, I've learned a lot of this stuff, but if I didn't keep leaning on all these men that I trust still today, that I'm texting basically every single day, I'm not sure I'd be on this podcast right now. I'm a product of the fact that I have a lot of great men around me reminding me like, no, man, that's it. Keep going. Don't give up. Like, you're 3 feet from gold. Keep digging, we often become our own worst enemy. So I think those are the two easiest things guys can do, is build some strong friendships with other men where you really lay it out there. Hey, bro, I'm not doing good this week. My wife and I had this huge argument. Okay, man, well, tell me more. That's it, guys. You don't have to be like therapy or whatever. It's just talk to each other. And then the other one is work out. You start doing those two things, a lot falls into place pretty quickly. There's obviously many more things we can do, but in the interest of time and just quick actionable items, get some friends, go take them to lunch, go to coffee, whatever. Put yourself out there. Hey, bro, I like you. I think we have a lot of shared values. I just want to get to know you better. Do that. I assure you that'll help a lot. And then work out.
Absolutely, man. I love having guests like you, because you get it, you're living it, you're inspiring. And I want to add to this, and I think you're because we're going through the process of changing and growing your mind and growing as a man or a person. For any of you women, this applies to you as well if you're listening. Now, once you have these great people that you're around, I want you to talk a little bit about when you give, when you pay forward what you're doing, you become an asset to others. Because that's the third concept that I share, is that once you become an asset to others, the more you give, the more you receive. And people don't realize in so many ways how the giving or helping others helps yourself. So can you touch upon that and see from your own personal experience or anybody you worked with on doing that when you take that next step beyond just being with a good group of people? Now you are participating and being an asset for those friends or family or members in your circle.
Definitely. As men, I think that's our responsibility. There is a level of fulfillment and purpose we find as men that when we build ourselves up in some skill or wisdom or knowledge, whatever the topic is, building your capability up for yourself first with the help of mentors and guidance, there is then that higher level of fulfillment that comes from being able to pass that on to someone else. We're designed that way. It's not an accident, right? The world tries to poo-poo that and make men afraid to do it by using words like mansplaining. Make no mistake, the weapons of our modern age are words. The meanings of words have been corrupted to trap men and make them fearful of taking any kind of action, for being labeled something or judged or whatever. You have to have the courage to be disliked, right? A good man understands that he's not here to try and convince everyone that he's right. He's just going to do the right thing. And for those who are willing to receive, he's going to bless their lives a lot. So that idea of building yourself up and then paying it forward, I think, is programmed into our DNA as a man. For every father listening to this, I don't even need to explain this to you. You already understand it, right? The second your kid was born, you knew immediately in that moment, holy crap, I've got more responsibility now than I've ever had in my life. And that's by design. So what's the point of all of it, right? It's not to just mass wealth and like glorify ourselves, right? That's what Andrew Tates do. Guys like that, they're all, look at me, look at all the cars, look at all the women. Why is he doing all this stuff? It's just to keep piling on his, attaboys to himself. A real good man builds himself up, not for selfish gain, but understanding that, hey, I can live for others. right? You want to live a great life, live for other people. Everything I'm doing, yeah, it feels good, right? That certainly is rewarding to start a business and be successful and all these things, right? It's not like it's all sacrifice all the time, but the ripple effects and the differences we get to make in other people's lives, regardless of your profession, if you're willing, it can be life-changing for someone, right? Maybe you don't go into full-time coaching. Maybe it's just a quick conversation you had with someone when they're having the worst week of their life. You may have kept them on this earth, right? That is a life-changing life-changing action you made in someone else's life because you were willing and able to actually use your expertise and help them. That's no small feat. And I think we downplay, we get caught in this comparison game of, well, I've got to have all the cars and all the women and all the status before then I can do good things. No, bro, you can be broke and hurting and all that kind of stuff. And as long as you're a little bit further along the path and you see someone else who's willing to receive, I assure you, you can make a positive impact in their life. And then in return, that builds you up. So to close this one up on a nice little bow here is men need 3 types of other men in their lives, right? You need mentors, which aren't that hard to find. You just gotta kind of put yourself out there. And if you show that you're willing to learn and you're hungry to reach that next level, most guys who are successful, strong, good men, they're gonna look out and be like, ooh, I see you. I see myself from 10 years ago. Let me help you, bro. The next one is peers, which we'll come back to. That's actually the hardest one to cultivate. And then you need proteges, right? People that you are mentoring. The reason there is you should constantly be growing yourself with your own mentors. But there's still a level of distance there, right? And that's by design because there needs to be that level of respect and kind of submission to this higher authority, because then you're just going to soak it all in and gain from that, right? And it's rewarding for them as well, right? It's a two-way street. The one you are mentoring or ones you are mentoring, same thing. It forces you to be better you got to practice what you preach, right? You have to maintain the knowledge and build yourself up. But the peer group is the hardest one. And this is where most men find themselves completely stuck. Again, they're salty, right? They're stressed, angry, lonely, tired, and yearning for more because they're so cut off. That peer group is actually the most important piece of the equation, in my opinion, right? You could have 20 mentors and all these people you're helping. And if you have no actual guys in the same season of life as you, it's not age, it's season, right? It's based off of kind of shared values and experiences you're in. You are going to feel very empty because you're just giving of everyone else and nothing fills you back up. And so that peer group is essential because they're the ones where it's like, man, I'm just really stressed this week. And you just lay it down before them and like, we got you, bro. I get it. I'm in the exact same boat. Let's talk about it. Or let's go get whatever. Let's go work out or something. That peer group is kind of the one that restores you so that you can continue to do the other ones. And if you're all focused on growth and you don't have a peer group, at some point, your batteries are going to drain. You're going to run out of gas. And that peer group is really the only way that you're going to build it back up.
Oh, I love it. And I want to touch more on this because I think it is such an important topic is mentors and mentorship. For anyone out there that, you're a listener and you're like, man, I really don't have a mentor, or someone that maybe could be a good mentor and you're afraid to ask, let's talk about finding mentors and the actual, excuse me, the actual mentality that a mentor has when you approach them. Because a good mentor, they're going to get excited about it. They're not going to be like, oh, no, I don't have time or whatever. Mentors, people want to teach. You talked about being a father. You're teaching your kids. You enjoy that. You find pleasure in it. You see their achievements. So let's talk about mentorship and finding a mentor and how to help someone do that and not be afraid to reach out to get a mentor.
I'm not dodging the question, but I'm going to give a little bit of a roundabout answer to get back to this, because I think there's a fundamental thing here we have to tie back to the beliefs. So your beliefs about yourself have to change first, because then everything that you do is influenced by that. The way that you show up, the way that you present, the energy that you give off stems from your core beliefs about yourself. So if you're seeking growth in some area, you need to really dig into your own belief about yourself in this, right? And to just be very granular here, if it's, I want to be a better father, right? You have to focus on what you need to do, like what you want to become, not finding yourself and all the things you shouldn't do, right? As combat veterans, we can understand this, right? In a firefight, you're not thinking about all the things you shouldn't be doing. You're thinking about the one thing you should do, right? Gain fire superiority and then maneuver as appropriate, right? So we got to have that same mentality here with our beliefs of, okay, I want to be a better father. that I'm not there today. I want to be there. That's my end goal. I mean, what do I believe about myself? I believe I can do that. I believe I'm worthy about that. Now everything's going to follow suit. So that has to be step one. Then when you're like, okay, now I believe this for myself, I need a mentor, and that because you've changed your belief, because you're changing the way you show yourself and present yourself, like you said, that mentor is going to be excited because they're going to go, ooh, here's one who wants to learn. I can't wait to do this with you, right? So you have to have a little bit of personal courage and vulnerability there, a little bit of courageous transparency, as my good friend Brandon Blinson says. You got to lay it out there, right? And the interesting thing too about a mentor is it may not have to be necessarily this huge conversation. When you start on the path towards that next objective, whether it's growth as a man or as a husband or father or professional, whatever, when you start down that path, people are going to recognize that, hey, this guy's actually putting in the work to be that next thing. And so if they recognize that from above, so to speak, they'll reach out to you. They're going to show themselves to you, man. The number of men who have just happened to pop into my life in this journey in the last like couple years for me, I can't even name them all. It's been so many, right? But just every single one has been a little bit of a mentor to me in some area that they have expertise, right? Maybe it was just a single sentence, but that has altered my life for the better just because I had started down the path. If I was waiting for someone first to like show me all the answers and then take action, it never would happen. So you have to kind of take the first step. Yeah. This fear of like, oh, well, they may reject me or something. It's just not true. I have yet to reach out to someone that I think could help me with a problem who, I look up to in a way. And as long as you present it that like, hey, I respect what you're doing. I think I could learn a lot from you. Would you take a call with me? The answer's almost always been yes. Like I've pretty much never been turned down. So I just don't think that people are actually that hard to reach. We are too afraid to ask. So put yourself out there. Worst case, they say no and you just look for a new one. That's it. You just move on to the next.
Absolutely. And I love that you're talking about beliefs and energy and what you're putting out there. And, some people call it the law of attraction, and they laugh like, oh, ha, ha, ha. But seriously, it works. You are at a certain mindset. You live a certain way. You exude this vibration and energy. People relate on that. I mean, anybody listening, you've been in a room and you first meet somebody and you just go, wow, there's something different about them. That energy is real. And I love that you're touching on that. Heck, we're here together because of that. Look at us and our different paths. And now here we are on this podcast together, both
Right.
preaching the truth and the same things to help other people, to mentor. So I think that's great. So do you ever talk about the law of attraction? I mean, obviously you just did a little bit with energy and whatnot. Do you do anything with that, or is
No,
that
I don't
kind
really
of...
like. I don't know. I don't really subscribe to that fully. I just think it's we're just designed that way as humans, right? If you go back to kind of our base biology, we're constantly trying to evaluate: are you a threat or are you a friend? Right? That's our limbic system just doing its job. With that, only 7% of human communication is with words. 7%. That's it. All right. 93% is nonverbal. So again, when I say that your beliefs are influencing everything, if you believe that you're a loser who's not worthy of love or friendship, guess what everyone else is going to start picking up on? That exact same emotion, because that's how you're going to start presenting, right? You can tell so much by a man just by like, are his shoulders back? Is his head high? Or is he kind of slouched? And does he avoid eye contact, right? Like that says a lot about you. Maybe it's not fair, but it's the way it is, right? So we can piss and moan about how unfair it may be or people shouldn't judge or whatever. And it's like, well, our biology actually programs us to be judgmental because it's a survival skill. The world wasn't as civilized as it currently is. And even now there's still danger around every corner, so to speak. So there is, I don't really subscribe to the law of attraction necessarily. I just think it's fundamental truths about human nature. And so when we start to understand that, you don't necessarily have to be the expert on it. You just have to kind of understand at a base level, like, look, the way that I carry myself is going to naturally say a lot non-verbally to someone else. They're going to pick up on it and they're going to kind of match that. And that's human nature, right? If someone's really happy and laughing and all that kind of stuff, you naturally feel a little bit more, let me talk with this guy or whatever, right? If your arms crossed, scowling, glared, people are like, I don't know, that guy's not very approachable. I'm not going to go ask that guy something, right? So think about how you carry yourself. And then with that too, this goes especially for the husbands and fathers. you need to be hyper vigilant about this, right? I think a lot of guys, you're carrying the weight of the day or the stress at work, and so you're wearing it on your face and in your body posture. And so then when you come home, you're kind of just this like ball of negative energy, and then your family's like, ugh, don't make dad mad, right? And that you're kind of creating this like walking on eggshells environment. And that this was me, man. Like my temper would flare and all that kind of stuff. And I was basically just damaging my family on a daily basis. And when I finally started taking ownership of, hey, whatever's going on, this is the most important role I have as husband and father. And I need to make sure that I kind of reset myself before walking in the door to show that energy correctly. So whether it's the law of attraction or not, I don't actually know. I don't know if it matters. But the reality is, if I need to be presentable, loving, gentle when I walk in the door, because the world needs the warrior, not my family, right? They need the tender, loving husband and father. And that sets the tone for everyone else to then rebuild that connection. So I think that plays out in every aspect of life. It's first and foremost important with your family, then your profession, and all these other things, right? But you don't have to be some master communicator to do well at this. It's literally just a little bit of basic body posture, and I think it comes from your beliefs about yourself, where naturally your energy, for lack of a better term, is going to just be more inviting to others.
Let's dig a little deeper into these beliefs. So when you have someone that's struggling, like they have this I can't, or I don't know how, or, I really suck, or they're dealing with guilt or whatever, what are some techniques that you share that help someone change their beliefs? Because I know you got to get alone and you have to do, and everybody's different. I like the walk, go for a walk even, but tell us how you would share some of that technique with someone coming in to change their beliefs.
So really, the way that we do it in Elite Sentinel is building understanding first, right? Getting back to basics about what is a good man. And I think that so many guys have this wrong picture of what that means, that they think they've been working really hard at doing all the right things, and yet they feel like crap. So then their belief naturally is, I suck, or I'm, unworthy, or whatever, right? It creates this downward spiral that's been their narrative for a long time. So regardless of their background, when you just, again, focus on what we should be, focus on the ideal, what I should be doing instead of all the things I shouldn't be doing, it's a lot easier to just put a few actionable steps toward that goal. And then, right, the feedback starts to change. Oh, hey, wow, that did work. My wife did actually receive that well. My kids did receive that well. Or yeah, it is going better at work now. It's very easy for men to take that physical world, data points from basic actions to start then re-encouraging this new set of beliefs. So initially, it's like a leaky faucet, right? You got to turn the water off first before you can fix the leak, but you have to fix the leak still. So early on, this is where the brotherhood is so important. You may not actually believe it fully for yourself, and you're kind of trusting the process that, like, okay, well, I'm going to trust what George and the other instructors are saying because, they look like guys that have it figured out. So I'm going to, bet on it, right? It is a little bit of a trust thing there. They don't believe it fully for themselves yet. As the actions start to re-influence their narrative, they start to believe it for themselves. So that it's kind of like, for people with substance abuse issues, you got to go to like AA or rehab or whatever, right? You got to stop the problem in its tracks first, but then that's not the whole picture. There's a lot more that has to follow suit. It's the same thing with your beliefs about yourself. So early on, you may not fully believe it for yourself yet, and you're going to take a little bit of trust and like, hey, I'm going to do these steps, and it'll re-influence it. And that's where the brotherhood is so critical too, because it's that feedback from outside sources watching your journey, being like, no, man, that was pretty good. You are making good progress on that. Maybe just think about this next time a little bit differently. But overall, man, keep it up. Like, this is good stuff, right? If you're totally trying to do this on your own, you're never going to get that feedback, and you're just going to keep seeing all the negatives. So hopefully that answered the question. I don't think there's one like magic pill or one perfect solution for everyone. But again, I think men are creatures of action, and we heal fastest. We change our minds and our beliefs about ourselves through doing, not necessarily sitting and talk about it. So you need a little bit of the talking about it to have kind of the understanding at like a factual level. But when you start to just do it and it works, and you're like, oh man, okay, I'll do it again. And it just keeps working, right? Some of these fundamental truths, For some of the guys, that's like holding a basic boundary with their wife. Hey, honey, I'd appreciate it if you didn't talk to me in that tone. I can do that? Yeah, bro. And you know what? The irony is she's actually going to be more attracted to you over time when you actually start doing that consistently. Oh, okay. Well, he may not believe it yet, but once it works a time or two, he's going to be like, oh, dang, I feel a lot better. So now it's his belief is going to fall suit pretty quick, right? So I'm not trying to make light of the situation. Obviously some people have some seriously difficult situations that they're in, or some things that have happened to them, and I'm super empathetic to those. And that's why Brotherhood's so important too, is because these are men who are going to like see you and be like, dang, man, I'm with you in that. I may not fully understand it, but how can I help, right? I'm here for you. That's going to help a lot in terms of not feeling alone. And then when you take some action steps, they're going to be like cheering you on and all that. It's positive feedback. Eventually, you'll start to believe it for yourself. Does that make sense?
No, totally. I love it, man. Brother, you are on it. I love what you're doing. I love the way you're talking about your coaching. Definitely, listeners, you got to check out the Present Fathers podcast. Seriously, you hear what he's saying? If you're a dad, check Present Fathers podcast out, because wow, George is amazing. He's got great information. He's passionate. You can tell that, right? I mean, just listening to you speak, we could go on for hours, I'm sure. This is so amazing. Yeah, and I'm super proud of the man you are. You talk about praise. People don't give praise a lot, especially guys to other guys. But man, I'm proud of you. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. And now let's get into a little bit about seeing problems as opportunities, because a lot of people, I think, aren't able to do that. So can you talk about taking a problem or an obstacle and making an opportunity for life?
Yeah, man. Oh, I love this topic because this is where the real freedom and liberation as a man actually comes, right? We believe as a culture that you're going to do all these things and you're going to arrive, right? You're going to get to some point, some level of growth, and then, I won't have problems anymore, right? I'll make enough money then, or I'll do this and then I'll get more fit and then. No, bro, that's not how it works, right? That's a trap. So the reality is, whatever stage of life you're in, whatever season, journey you're in, whatever level of growth you're in, you're going to eventually get to this new kind of threshold, right? Your capability as a man will grow, it will improve, and then you're going to be taking on more. It's just how it goes. And that may initially sound like, oh, dang, well, then I don't want to grow because it's going to be more pressure, there's more burden. It actually goes in reverse, right? It feels hardest now, wherever you are. If you're struggling with a lot, this is the hardest it's ever going to be. And like I said, right, I've got more going on now in my life than I've ever had going on professionally, ever. Like I'm juggling 100 different things every day. I mean, being an entrepreneur is extremely difficult for those who may not know. I mean, Elon Musk said it's like crawling through glass and staring into the abyss of death every single day, right? So I think he's exaggerating a little bit, but it's hard work. There's always a problem for me to fix. But I feel more free and liberated than I've ever felt because my human ability, my growth as a man has far exceeded the stresses of the day, if that makes sense. And I've got my brotherhood, right? So when I do hit that wall, I'm like, dang, man, I don't know if I can do this. I'm reaching out to them and they're like, no, dude, you've got this. Do this, this, and this. Hey, you messed that up. No big deal. Whatever, right? It's all the counsel that I need to move forward. That reframe happens over time, right? This is, again, it's a new way of thinking. It's a new conditioning you have to have in your brain. And it's not like you're going to magically just do something and then be like the guy, right? And I've seen it with all my friends too that I look up to who are further along in their journeys than me, where they get to this new tier of, it may even be a good thing, right? Like a new client wants to pay them more than they've ever been offered. And they're like, whoa, am I the guy? Can I actually do that? Mm-hmm. And that's a natural response too, is like, well, we don't think we're worthy of it, right? That's another level of growth we have to have. But you're going to, whatever that plateau, that new thing that comes, you're going to kind of have that moment of temptation going back to like, oh, well, I don't know if I can do that. And that's why, again, you need that outside influence. But that reframe is critical. And I think it's impossible to do it for yourself. I think you have to have a mentor, a coach, a brotherhood that can wisely help you reframe it and then kind of guide you on the initial steps so that you can begin the journey. And I'll use kind of I'm going to keep like names out of it just for like privacy's sake, but a friend of mine is going through a pretty difficult situation in their marriage. The D word's been thrown around a lot and potentially they're going to go that direction. And he was obviously feeling really down and all that kind of stuff. And we had a quick conversation about, hey man, this is, you can only control you at this point, right? There's no way that you can try and like logic her to change her decision making or actions. This is an opportunity for you to not only grow yourself and hopefully influence her to join you in restoration, but it's also the opportunity to model this for your children, because one day they're going to grow up. But if this does go the worst case and you guys do get divorced, one day those children are going to grow up. They're going to start asking questions and realizing what happened. And you'll be able to look them honestly in the eye and say, hey, I did everything I possibly could to work through this, to be loving and caring and all those things, right? I explored every avenue. I didn't give up. And that's going to mean a lot to them one day. So as painful as this is today, this is an opportunity for you to take intentional steps. And when you're feeling at your breaking point, brother, you call me immediately. You give me a text, hey, SOS, 911, whatever. Let me know, right? You can vent to me because I'm not in the midst of it. It doesn't hurt me. Okay, bro, hey, that sucks. Tell me more. All right, let's get back at it now, right? Like I can take it. So pour it on your brothers, and that reframe happens. So that's like one very painful example. Even as, I'm kind of an expert on this, and I still have to have guys do that for me, right? I reached out to a buddy who mentors me a lot on the business side of things, and I just had this problem, and I like couldn't fix it. I'm like, the marketing and this and that, and I couldn't figure it out. And he like listened to me for like 2 minutes and was like, one sentence solved the whole problem. And I was just like, dude, like we always have to have that because you're in the midst of it. It's hard to see it, right? And that's what I do professionally too with my business clients is I come in as an outsider, I assess the problems in their business, and I just help them fix it left and right because I'm not in the midst of it day to day. I can see clearly. So that's a truth of human nature that you just have to accept. And yeah, it's the reframe is very hard to do on your own. When you start to surround yourself with the right people, they're going to help you do that consistently. And then eventually it becomes a little bit more of like a trained response, right? I don't necessarily need to vent every single problem I have now because I've learned these mechanisms to kind of do it for myself as much as I can. And then when I can't do it alone, then you tap into your network.
Yeah, that's being able to step back and objectively look at the whole picture. When we're in it, it's harder to do. Now you can learn through self-awareness and all right, let me step back and you can get better at it. But absolutely having a peer group around you and having your tribe that can help you is great. And next, I want to get into gut feelings or the spirit, because I think everybody inside of us, no matter who you are listening or even any of your clients, deep down inside, we know the right thing to do, but we kind of suppress it. So let's talk about that inner voice and spirit inside and maybe listening to it.
Just so I understand the question fully, are you talking about maybe trusting your gut? Is that where you're kind
Trust
of going?
Your gut or the spiritual guidance that you have inside, like, oh man, I should exercise more. Oh, I shouldn't drink this beer, or I shouldn't, like, we have that inner voice or that inner guidance or gut feelings or spirit.
Yeah.
So can you key into that as far as helping people learn to listen, that they do have some guidance within them?
Yeah, so I think the best way to actually do this is to go on offense about it, right? So you were kind of all these questions about yourself, right? Was the example you just gave. The fastest way to clear that up and stop that and to just be more of a man of action is part of like a morning routine of some nature. And what that entails is writing a creed for yourself that is contextualized solely to your own life. So like if someone else read it, it may not mean much to them, but to you, it means everything. So it's a living document and it's short, right? This is like bullet points, couple key sentences where you're going to recenter yourself. Hey, this is the man I'm becoming today. These are the things that I'm going to do. These are the things that I believe about myself. That stops the noise up here and kind of on that emotional, spiritual side. Because again, instead of weighing every single option, it's just like, no, these are the 3 things I'm going to do. I'm going to, control my temper. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work out, whatever those things are. So for me, right, I live a very public life now. The very first sentence of mine that I recite to myself every morning, right, I'm just checking in this season of life it's a line from that poem, If, by Rudyard Kipling, where if you can hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, then you'll be a man. And that's the reality. Is my words get twisted and used against me, and people comment on my stuff all the time. And that's just the reality of what I do now. It's something I have to endure and tolerate and kind of bear. And that was a challenge initially. So I put that in there just to remind myself, hey man, it's gonna happen. But you're bigger than that. That's not you. That's not your words. Seeing a 10-second clip of you on the internet and someone getting mad at you. That's not something to react over, right? That's just one example. For a lot of guys, we start a lot more simple. Like, if they're having self-love issues, it's I'm worthy. Maybe that's the first sentence. That's it. I am worthy. I am statements about yourself are extremely powerful. Both negative or positive, and that's where guys really need to catch themselves. So I think that daily morning consistency of starting your day with some true statements about yourself, the objective you're moving towards, the growth you're pursuing, is going on offense as opposed to being reactionary. Like, oh, I'm feeling this way. Now what do I do? No, we already handled that first thing in the morning, and then when you feel that, you're like, nope, I know better. I'm doing the right thing. I believe in this, or I'm going to work out, or whatever. Right? You can insert your season of life you're in, but for some guys, their marriage is really struggling, so they're putting statements in there that I was working really hard on controlling my anger and having more emotional intelligence and kind of empathy. So I was putting statements in there like I will remind myself daily that my anger will cause lasting damage if I don't control it, right? I will never raise my voice at my children or my wife. I will be calm even when I'm angry, right? I was using statements like that to start conditioning my mind of this better version of me I wanted to be. And it may sound a little woo-woo and crazy and stuff, but that's how our brains work, man. That narrative playing in your head is everything. Like, that's how you show up in life. And so if it's a bad one, guess what? You're going to get bad results.
No, absolutely. Myself, I'm like, I am what I am because I choose to be. That's the first line that I go through every day. I have choices, and I can make a good choice or I can make a bad choice. And that is so powerful. And that gives ownership to you and your life. And absolutely, George is right. Find something that you relate to or you need to work on and write a statement down. I like to, before I go to bed, kind of review the day. AARs is like we say in the military, like, all right, what did I do good today? What do I need to work on? What do I need to improve? And then in the morning, I start fresh and I get like my to-do list, or I'm going to do this, and this is what I'm working on. So I think those things are very powerful and important. And please take a moment to pause and go into our description, and you will be able to find links on George and Elite Sentinel Coaching. Check them out. They're doing great things. If you're a father, you're a man that needs a little help, I'm pretty sure George can help you. And also, please give us a follow, give us a like, subscribe, and pick up my book if you already haven't picked up The Asset Mindset. It'll help you. It'll change your life. It'll help you be your greatest asset. Now, before we go, we've talked about a lot of different things, but I want to get that one big nugget or that important thing or the one thing that you want to leave the audience with. If you could just implant one mindset principle or philosophy into every person that's listening right now today, what would it be and why?
Whatever background you come from, whatever challenges you faced, whatever adversity you've had to go through, whether it was fair or unfair, all that kind of stuff, whatever the past has been, you get to choose today what tomorrow will be like. You get to start redirecting the course of your life. No one can do it for you. You have to be part of your own rescue. Like I said, once you start down the new path, people will present themselves to you, help will arrive, but you have to be the one to make the shift. You have to choose for yourself. Living in self-pity and pain and wallowing in the past is a choice, and it isn't fair. Life is not fair. I know a lot of people who have had it way harder than me, but they all believe the same thing I just said. And so I don't think it's me being some special dude. It's a choice we all have to make, especially for the men. This is something we're designed to do, is to build legacy. It's not some, fluffy word for kings and world leaders. It's something that every man should be thinking about, because that, again, if you define what you want your end legacy of your life to be, that's your North Star. All of your actions are then going to be influenced. It's a lot easier to decide what I should be doing on a daily basis when I have a clear picture of that end state. And you get to be the one to change that, right? So if you come from a family line that's got lots of drug abuse or, physical abuse or whatever, all any of those types of problems that typically kind of go on for generations, you get to be the one to change it. As the man, you have the power to change that for your family. And maybe you're not going to fully fix it all, but you make enough of an effort that your kids then get to build upon that and rewrite the whole story of your family. And who knows, hundreds of years from now, they may be living a prosperous life because of the actions you took today. So that shouldn't just feel like a burden. It should feel like an opportunity. And the way that you do that is loving yourself enough to prioritize growing yourself. It may sound selfish, but when you grow yourself in that manner, you then have the opportunity to actually build that type of a legacy for others.
Great. I love it. I love it. And it's not where you start, it's where you're going.
Absolutely.
Where are you going, listeners? Do you have a goal? Do you know where it is that you want to be? Do you know the legacy that you want to build? It's so important to have those things. You need a destination. And once you have that, you can backwards plan and figure out, all right, if I need to be here, I need to do this, this, and this first. It seems complicated, but it's really not. The most complicated part that I see, and I'm sure you see this too, George, is discipline to create the positive habits. But once you have that discipline and you create the habits, you can do it.
Hey, so for those listening, I just want to provide a free resource. It's my 7-day challenge. So maybe you've heard some things that we were just talking about today where you're like, man, I want to do that, but I don't know where to get started. This is it. Okay. I'm not going to spam you with like 7,000 emails, right? It's going to send one to you per day for 7 days. These are very actionable little exercises to get you started on that path. And if you don't work with me, that's fine. I want you to take this, make the most of it, and then maybe that is enough of a spark to help you find the right resource. Whatever it is, I just want men to actually take ownership of their lives and start having that better life they've always dreamed of. So these are free steps for you to take. It's in the description. Click on that. It's self-guided. It's extremely easy, but it will certainly give you some actionable steps to do the things we were talking about in this episode.
Thank you for joining us at the Asset Mindset Podcast. I hope you enjoyed everything that you heard and learned a lot because George has a lot of knowledge. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe the Asset Mindset, and definitely check us out in the next episode, and own your power and share this with someone who needs it. God bless.